Hello everyone, MacLeod here with another story from the realm of the dice. Today we're going to look at how pre-written characters can sometimes make life very tough for a DM. Let's look at the post. This is the final horror story I have from years of playing and DMing online and will hopefully be my last. Having just finished a year-long homebrew campaign, I wanted to DM a much shorter, maybe 3-month or so campaign with a new group as a breath of fresh air. I interviewed a bunch of people and selected my group. One of them was our problem player, who I'll call Princess. Now, he came across as very nice when I was interviewing him and asked if he could play a character that he'd already prepped but had never had the chance to play. I'd never had a player do this before and told him this was okay, but to understand that backstory hooks wouldn't be present in this campaign. It was basically just a small, independent adventure. He sent me his character's backstory and holy crap, it was 11 pages of the most Mary Sue I've ever read. I'm talking stuff like his Elven Ranger princess being heir to the throne, beloved by her people, descended from dragons, but also flawed because she cares too much, and so left her land and birthright because she couldn't save everyone. It was a bit much, to say the least. There was a lot more about her adventures after leaving home, the exploits of which far outranked that of a level 3 adventurer that the players were to start at. But after asking him to tone it down and synthesize his backstory into dot points, I thought it was better. It wasn't. Okay, so when this happens, there are two different things a DM can do, technically. Either A, tell them to cut it down, or B, cut them off entirely because expectations do not line up with what the game is supposed to be. It's okay to tell a player that they don't fit the group, especially when it's something like this where you interview them. On top of that, sometimes it's worth remembering that players tend to have multiple characters stored in their vault, or whatever you want to call it, in their stash, that they never get to play because games just never start, or they get to a point where they never really got to finish the full potential of their character. Lastly, some people make characters that they just get so infatuated with that it kind of becomes parasocial, and when it gets to that point, you just have a whole different issue on your hand. But let's keep going. The first issue arose when generating stats. As I'd explained to everyone, we would be rolling for stats, but with a couple of safety nets in place so that no one would have a character with a terrible array, but everyone would have at least one negative stat. Princess starts huffing and whining that the array he rolled just doesn't feel right. He felt that his elf princess should have had at least an 18 before modifiers and no negative stats. I held firm on this and told him that he knew how stats were generated before the game, and when the other players backed me up, he shut up. You know, props to the DM for holding their ground and not giving any leeway to this sort of shenanigans. Players have to make sure that they respect how the GM wants to run their game. It's okay to try and negotiate sometimes, but sometimes it's just not, and that's okay too. I had a chat with him after this to ensure that there were no hard feelings, and he seemed content enough. Come the beginning of the campaign, however, and boy did Princess show his true colors if he hadn't already. He would constantly make references to his backstory that we'd agreed weren't canon in this game, put on this whole show about being a reluctant, humble, good-hearted princess who didn't want to rule but still expected the players to show deference. Would constantly interrupt the other players and try to force themselves into moments where Princess wasn't even present. The worst part was when his princess got hit by a single attack and then immediately fled from the fight, abandoning the party and threatened that Princess would only come back if someone healed her. I had a stern talking to with the player after the first session of this, that it was unacceptable behavior and that he would be kicked if he continued this way, and he apologized and agreed to pull back. Again, really good on the GM to put down some boundaries. Things went okay until after our 4th session. But the next morning I awoke to find our Discord server filled with pages of text from Princess detailing individual moments from the 4 sessions we'd had so far, with both screen caps of the Roll20 server and timestamps where he critiqued both myself and the other players. I'm talking stuff like, this NPC initiated conversation with Barbarian first when I'm the one who got the kill, which the NPC couldn't have known. Or, I really feel you all should have roleplayed your characters being a lot more surprised when I revealed that a bit of backstory about my character because she really opened up about herself there. It was insufferable, and I've never seen anything like it. According to him, this was a much friendlier way of voicing his grievances. So this was the breaking point, and the moment I realized I was done with the guy. I wrote in the public chat that if he had so many complaints about the game, then he clearly wasn't happy playing it and kicked him from the server. I got a message from him a week later on Roll20, hypocritically saying that he really didn't appreciate me announcing kicking him on the public chat before I blocked him there. This horror story, as well as playing in a couple of games with other pre-written characters, had really turned me off to them. I won't say all pre-written characters are bad, but from my own experience, I found that players with one tend to be far more interested in playing their character than playing the game, and that there's a high chance they're so attached to the character that they will get incredibly upset if the character experiences any sort of damage or failure/setback. And that's the post. Really, the DM here hits a lot of nails on their head, really. When a player gets too attached to their character, then it becomes almost impossible to do proper role-playing. Sometimes characters die, sometimes characters get hurt, sometimes characters change because of traumatic events. This is okay, because characters are supposed to be people. They're supposed to grow and change as time goes on. A character that stays static rarely gets to be all that interesting the more you play. But that's all for now, everybody. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.